Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to take an interesting look at a YouTube video by a creator that I enjoy, and I've linked her before, by the name of Abby Cox. So this one specifically talks about shopping in the 18th century. And part of the reason I'm doing this is also because I have a bit of a pet peeve of one of Felicity's books. So she did this video because there's a lot of weird ideas around clothes making, particularly before like the 1860s, i.e. when the sewing machine was made. Prior to this, the vast majority of people, including people who didn't have a lot of money, did not make their own clothes. They did not have time. So the men, she specifically talks, men went to tailors to have suits fitted. Now these men, this was almost strictly men. Men are tailors. They also made other fitted garments, like they would make the corsets. They would make the shapewear that they would be wearing. We're talking the crinolines, the side hoops that Felicity would wear. Of course, Caroline was not wearing any of this. She would have been wearing stays. So, but again, that's who would be making those specific structured garments. Then she talks about what is called mantua makers, or the dressmakers. So these women specialized in draping fabric. So what you would do back then is you would go and buy fabric that you chose, and they would probably have specific sizes for whatever style you were wanting to make. In Caroline's time, it was a heck of a lot less, because we're talking what would be considered both the Federalist or the Regency style. So that's empire waist, very slim. Nothing is going to be tight-laced. One, it's not possible, and two, it was completely pointless at this time period. But then you would buy the fabric, you would go to the mantua maker, and she would drape it around you when you were in under your support garments, which in case of Caroline, would simply have been a shift and her stays. So sometimes they were wrap stays, sometimes they were short stays. These things were not tight. They may have had whalebone, which is the baleen. This is like flexible like your fingernail stuff. And it was very kind of flat. So they would drape it around them and fit it to you, because everybody had their clothes specifically fitted to them. And then the other thing is she talked about is how they changed styles. You took your dress back and had it changed. You just had it refitted. You would occasionally, if the fabric was still, there was enough of it there and it was still fashionable, you would just have your dress remade. So that's why we really don't have a lot of clothing from these periods, is because the dresses were just remade to the different styles. The ones that you do see in museums are owned by were pretty much by young girls. Most of these you're not going to find a lot of older ladies' clothing, because those would have been restyled. And the reason we find the younger girls that was not worn very often, very special occasion kind of things, is because there wasn't enough fabric to remake them. And nobody else was going to fit them. So, for instance, like the Felicity's dress, particularly we're talking her Christmas dress, would have probably been remade, because she was about 10. She may not have grown too much more after that, but it is very, very likely, partially because they did have the stomachers back then, that dress would have been remade. So she would have reused the fabric. And yes, I know I'm going into Felicity a little more, but her mother would have never made that dress. They didn't know how. And they didn't have the time. I mean, they did not have the time to make clothing for their entire family. That is one of the things Abby stresses in this video. It's like, we're busy. They do not have the time. They do not know how. Some of those elaborate dresses were taking days. Felicity's dress in that would have taken days. Some of Caroline's clothing would have taken days. I do think they mentioned her making her own clothing. I know she did a lot of embroidery, which is fine, but she would not, even Caroline would not have been making her own clothing. They did not have the time. They were busy. And yes, there would have been a mantua maker and a tailor, if not more than one, even in the small town of uh, Sackett's Harbor, because that was just how people had their clothing made until the sewing machine. And then still people were doing that. But patterns didn't exist either, not until later. If you want to touch on Cinderella, the Cinderella film, the whole "we're making our dress," yeah, that's based on the 1950s. People did not really, it didn't even explode doing making your own clothing until probably close to the 1900s. And um, people just didn't have the time, and you had professionals to do that. So this video, how long is this? And of course I will link it. Abby's videos are decent. So this is about 25 minutes. And I do enjoy Abby. She is a dress historian. She does know what she's talking about. She did in fact work. She does make clothing. She knows how long it takes. And she does have quite a few videos on her making clothing. She does a lot of historical reenactment stuff. She did in fact work in Colonial Williamsburg for like 5 years. So she knows her stuff, and she has written books on this. So that is it for this video. If you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. We will be doing Caroline this month, and yes, I'm going to be covering a lot of YouTube, specifically by Abby Cox and her friend Nicole Rudolph, who do a lot of these historical videos, and they did both work in Colonial Williamsburg. So again, if you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thank you.